Sonic.
Police are stepping up their search for the driver involved in a deadly hit and run, and this morning we are hearing a 911 call from that scene that night. Then, taking power away from those who commit domestic violence, how survivors can find a permanent solution to staying safe. And we are getting you prepared for a chance of rain that's coming with your first alert forecast. WMBF News Today at 5:30 starts right now.
First in high definition. Live, local, late breaking. This is WMBF News Today at 5:30.
Good morning. We had a couple showers swing through Scotland County, already out of the way. A little bit of light drizzle, perhaps, for northern Robeson County. Other than that, we are looking at just mostly cloudy skies across the border belt, partly cloudy as we zoom out for the Grand Strand. Notice we might see a couple more little showers try to develop across the PD today. I would say around 2:30, 3:30 this afternoon. Other than that, we should stay dry and quiet for today with more rain chances tomorrow. 63 right now for Myrtle Beach, 56 in Florence, and 54 in Conway. So a mild start to the day. And temperatures will climb into the upper 60s to right at 70 by 11 o'clock. Notice we will get some peaks of sunshine, but we're still going to deal with a little bit of cloud cover as well. Let's get that first check on the roads now with Jenna.
Well, it's a new week, but we still have the same construction. So on 3rd Avenue South, expect those lane closures. You're going to be dealing with that between 17 Business and Highway 15. So, of course, if you need to get to Kings Highway, I would just take 501, or you could take a neighboring street like 5th Avenue South. 17 right now, though, is going to be a great drive. No issues for your morning commute out there, folks. You can see 501 to Singleton Ridge, pretty much a clear commute at this time, and I-95, of course, looks the best this morning. No major accidents to report to you, but I'll keep an eye on the roads and have another update for you coming up in about 15 minutes.
Jenna DeAngelis, thank you so much. An overhaul of South Carolina's criminal domestic violence laws, a very hot topic in Columbia right now. The goal, of course, to make the laws tougher on abusers but more protective of victims. Katrina Helmer is live in Conway. And Katrina, the sheriff's office here in Horry County simply doesn't have the affordability of waiting around for a change in the law, does it?
No, absolutely not. And the suspect needs to be caught. The victim needs to be protected for these criminal domestic violence cases, and that's why the Horry County Sheriff's Office has options in place to help keep you safe. One of those options is a protective order. Sergeant Sherry Smith says that these protective orders are basically like a restraining order with teeth. It gives the victims a bit more protection than just a regular restraining order because it can be tailored to your situation. So you can ask for use and possession of your home or a vehicle or anything else that might help keep you safe from the suspect. Because Sergeant Smith says when you're married in South Carolina, everything is common law. So if your abuser takes the car and you're married, there's nothing you can do about it without a court order. Lieutenant Steve Cox says this kind of order is extremely important because domestic violence is all about control. So many times the suspect wants control over money, the car, and the house. This order won't stop a bullet or a slap, but it does give the victim some protection so they can find a permanent solution.
Obviously, it's going to be that person that's going to have to take control. You know, if the victim allows the suspect to come back in the house, then there's nothing we can do unless there is an order of protection that's granted, or if a warrant is issued, obviously we can make the arrest.
I'm told by the Sheriff's Office that victims will go back to their abusers on average 11 times before they finally decide to leave. So to get one of those protective orders, you just need to go to the Clerk of Court's office, get the paperwork to fill out. Once you fill all of that out, the order will be served. And any time that suspect ever violates that order, that person will be arrested. For more information on how to get some help with filling out all this paperwork, just head to our website, WMBFnews.com, and click on the Local tab. Reporting live in Horry County, Katrina Helmer, WMBF News.
Good information, Katrina. Thank you for that. This week begins a series of community and business meetings for Bike Fest here in Horry County. The first will be this Wednesday at the original Benjamin's Calabash Restaurant at 9 a.m. That's on North Kings Highway. If you can't make that one, there are two others happening next week. Those times and meeting places are right there on your screen right now. At those meetings, you're going to learn a lot more about that 23-mile traffic loop that'll be in place. Local government agencies will give presentations on their plans to manage Bike Week, and outline business responsibilities during the Memorial Day weekend. The City of Darlington wants to hear from you as well. They are holding a public meeting tomorrow morning at 11 in the Darlington City Courtroom. That's on Pearl Street. City leaders will be talking about buying 2 new police cars as well as rural development in the area. They also want to hear from you and what you think about the city's economy and environmental issues there. The Conway Fire Department will dedicate a new engine tomorrow night at 5:30. Engine 52 will join the fleet at a ceremony in front of the new public safety building on 9th Avenue. That new engine can pump 2,000 gallons of water per minute. Engine 52 replacing a fire truck that was bought way back in the year 2000. This will be one of 7 fire trucks operated by the department. Conway Mayor Alice Lawson will speak at the ceremony. Conway Fire Chief Lee Hendrick will dedicate that new engine. In a developing story, we are hearing the 911 calls after a fatal hit and run in Myrtle Beach. Nearly 2 weeks ago now, a man called 911 saying there was a body in the southbound lane of Highway 17 near 21st Avenue North. He told the 911 dispatcher the man was not moving, that it looked as if he'd been hit by a car. When officers got to the scene, they found the body of Timothy Doster. They believe the car that hit Doster, a white SUV, that of course now has front-end damage. Officers were able to identify Doster early on because he was wearing a hospital bracelet at the time he was hit. This is what dispatchers heard when that 911 call came in.
Can you see if anybody saw what happened to him, if he was hit by a car or what happened?
Ma'am, he was just driving down the road. Nobody's on the highway. I just found him laying there.
Okay, and there's nobody else that stopped?
No.
The police are still asking anyone with information to come forward. They've also recently placed electronic signs or billboards where the hit and run happened, hoping for tips from motorists. We are working to learn a lot more and the name of a person killed in a wreck in Marion County. It happened on Maiden Down Road Saturday night. Troopers say a Jeep Cherokee went off the road and hit a tree. The Jeep then caught on fire. Troopers could not tell whether or not that victim was actually wearing a seatbelt at the time. We are expected to learn more, though, about what killed a man in Florence County once toxicology reports are back in. The county coroner tells us that an autopsy showed no sign of foul play on 35-year-old Fabian Dozier's body. Dozier was reported missing after running from a traffic stop last Sunday. He called a friend to pick him up in the woods that he ran into, but has not been heard from since, or at least until his body was found. A homeowner found Dozier's body near Pamplico Highway Friday and called police. The Florence County Sheriff's Office and Coroner's Office are continuing to investigate that case. Myrtle Beach police are hoping that you can help them find a man after shots were fired. It happened in the 1100 block of East 3rd Avenue South early Saturday morning. A witness told officers the man fired a shot in the air after not being allowed to go inside a club. If you know anything about the case, call the Myrtle Beach Police Department on that one. And a jury could decide guilt or innocence of accused marathon bombing suspect Dzhokhar Tsarnaev today. Closing arguments take place this morning. NBC's Chris Pallone is in federal court in Boston with more on what we can expect.
After testimony from 95 witnesses in the Dzhokhar Tsarnaev trial, the only word that matters will soon belong to the jury, guilty or not guilty. Attorneys for the government and Tsarnaev make their final pleas this morning in closing arguments. Then 12 out of the 18 jurors will deliberate. It's likely Tsarnaev will be convicted. During opening statements, he admitted through his lawyers that he did take part in the bombings that happened at the finish line of the 2013 Boston Marathon. Those blasts killed 3 people. More than 240 were injured. From the beginning, Tsarnaev's defense team has said its goal is to keep him from being put to death. They called just 4 witnesses in his defense, pinning the blame on his older brother Tamerlan as the mastermind of the attack, establishing that Dzhokhar's fingerprints weren't found on some bomb components and that he was not present when the bomb components were purchased.
To the extent they're able to put a finer point on the government's evidence and establish that Tamerlan was the leader, that leads very well into their defense to establish that Dzhokhar was radicalized by Tamerlan and was the least culpable of the 2.
The defense laying the groundwork for the next phase of the trial if it gets that far. Chris Pallone, NBC News, Boston.
And if Tsarnaev is convicted of any of those death penalty charges, there will be yet another trial after this one ends. Both sides will make arguments on whether Tsarnaev should live or die. A jury will then make that final decision as well. New details, a review of Rolling Stone's story about a rape claim at the University of Virginia calls the article, quote, a journalistic failure that was avoidable. A report from Columbia School of Journalism blamed the reporter Sabrina Erdely, fact-checkers, editors, and editorial supervisors at the magazine. In the article, a student named Jackie says 7 men gang raped her at a fraternity house. Last night, the reporter released a formal apology saying, "I hope that my mistakes in reporting this story do not silence the voices of victims that need to be heard." Rolling Stone has pulled the story from its website and replaced it with the entire 1,200-word report. Developing overnight, 2 men on death row in Indonesia for smuggling heroin make a last-ditch effort to save their lives. Mandy Knoll live to explain the outcome.
David, appeals rejected overnight for 2 Australian drug traffickers known as the leaders of the so-called Bali Nine. They were caught for trying to smuggle heroin in Indonesia in 2005 and faced death by firing squad after serving 10 years on death row there. The men are trying to avoid their executions by challenging the Indonesian president's decision to refuse them clemency. But overnight, the High Administrative Court says the case is out of their jurisdiction because clemency is the prerogative of the president there. These men are among 10 drug smugglers whose planned execution last month were adjourned due to last-minute appeals from 6 inmates. From the live desk, Mandy Knoll for WMBF News.
Mandy, thank you. In consumer headlines this morning, the customer services fees you're paying on that prepaid debit card, they're falling, but ATM fees are on the rise. The Bankrate.com survey looked at 31 popular prepaid debit cards and found that while all of them charge fees, the specific fee structures are considerably different. But monthly service fees, activation fees, and fees for calling customer service all went down last year. The number of cards charging for a balance inquiry at an ATM, they're all up. 81% of the cards charged to check a balance at an ATM. That's up from 77% last year. The fees range from 50 cents all the way up to $3. And teens across the nation are picking out dresses, tuxes, and everything else for prom. According to Visa's annual prom spending survey, the poorer a family is, the more they will spend on the formal affair. The average family will spend just under $1,000 on prom. The study also found that families making more than $50,000 a year plan to spend an average of $800 on prom. Most likely you're already had your Easter egg hunt or maybe roll, but the First Family hasn't done that just yet. Later today, the president and his family will host the annual Easter egg roll. It's a White House tradition that dates all the way back to 1878. Children ages 13 and under will converge on the White House lawn with their families. In addition to the annual Easter egg roll, there will be live music, games, cooking stations, and storytelling. This year's theme, Gimme 5, in honor of the 5th anniversary of the First Lady's Let's Move campaign. We'll have much more about the White House tradition. That's coming up for you at 6 o'clock this morning. If you're a beef lover, you may start having it served rare, as in rarely. Prices are through the roof. When they're expected to come back down, still ahead.
And our HE Doppler radar will soon have some rain moving across it. I'll take you through the rest of our week in my First Alert forecast.